Hi everyone! In today's lesson, we continue discussing American English grammar and we are talking about the future today. In this lesson, I will teach you to use the form be going to talk about the future. Let's look at some sentences. Tara is going to work for an NGO next week. Sam is going to meet me at the airport on Sunday. It's going to rain tonight. You know that all of these sentences are about the future. You see words tonight, on Sunday, and next week. And in all of these sentences, you notice that I'm using going to. Let's take a closer look. We use going to talk about future plan or intention. For example, in the sentence, Tara is going to work for an NGO. I can also say Tara intends to work for an NGO. That's her plan. I can also say Tara plans to work for an NGO. We use going to for the future plan or intentions if we are very sure that it's going to happen, perhaps 90-95% sure. We also use going to talk about future predictions. For example, look at the big cloud. It's going to rain tonight. Because of the big cloud that I see in the sky, I'm sure that there is a possibility of rain. Remember to use going to for future prediction if there is some evidence suggesting you that this prediction is going to materialize. In this situation, I see a big cloud. That's how I know that it's going to rain. Let's take a closer look at the form. We will look at the positive and negative sentence formula. To make a positive sentence using going to for the future, you will start from a subject, then you will use the verb to be precise, one of its forms, am, is, or are, depending on your subject. Then you will use going to, and finally, base form of the verb. For example, I am going to study tonight. In this sentence, my subject is I, then I'm using am as the form of the verb to be because of my subject, then going to, study, base form of the verb, no ending, nothing around it, and that's it. You are going to watch TV. Similar sentence about the future, I have to use are because my subject is you, and see, I'm using the base form of the verb, no endings. They are going to play soccer. My subject is they here, so I'm going to use are as the form of the verb to be, then going to, and my base form of the main verb is play. To make a negative sentence using going to for the future, I will start with the subject, then I will need to use one of the forms of the verb to be, am, is, or are, depending on my subject, which you already know, followed by a negative particle not, then going to, and again, base form of the verb. No ending, no changes to the base form of the verb. For example, I'm not going to sleep early. You are not going to eat chips. They are not going to finish late. You notice that in all these sentences, I'm not using contractions. I'm explaining the conventions of English for formal language or for academic language. This is the language we're using at college, so we're not using contractions there. However, you can use contractions and you should use contractions in spoken language. Let's look at the questions. As you remember, there are two types of questions in English, yes-no questions and information questions. Let's look at yes-no questions first. You will start from one of the forms of the verbs to be, followed by a subject. Then you will use going to, followed by the base form of the verb. For example, am I going to watch this movie? Are you going to watch this movie? Is she going to watch this movie? You notice that it's practically the same question. I have different forms of the verb to be because my subject is different in each sentence. Let's look at the information question. You will start from a question word followed by one of the forms of the verb to be, adding going to plus base form of the verb. For example, what am I going to do tomorrow? Where are you going to work? When is she going to move? Well, let's have some practice. Please correct the mistakes in these sentences. You have 5 sentences. Each sentence has a mistake. Please pause the video if you need to and complete the practice task. All right, let's check together. Number 1, he is going to travel soon. You remember the formula for a positive sentence. I need to use a subject, then I need to use one of the forms of the verb to be. My subject is he, so I need to use is. Sentence number 2, I am going to call him later, not calling him later. In the sentence with going to for the future, I'm using the base form of the main verb. I don't need to add any endings to the main verb. That's why calling should become call. Number 3, they are going to move to Canada. In the sentence, the mistake was using going to form incorrectly. Remember the formula, going to for the future. Number 4, she is going to study there. In this sentence, to was not used after going. This is very important. I know it might look a bit confusing remembering all these particles. However, you want to remember the correct form. So going to stays with going in the sentence. And number 5, when are you going to move there? My subject is you, so the correct form of the verb to be here is are. Well, I hope this lesson was useful. In my next lessons, I'm going to talk about other future forms in English. For now, thanks for watching. Please subscribe not to miss my next lesson, and I'll see you in my next class.